Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Unit 3, Neuroscience, also known as Biology of Behavior, and it is going to be Chapter 2 in your textbook, as you see here on this cover slide. Remember, as we've said in class, the big theme for Unit 3 is parts and functions. So while learning about the nervous system and the brain's influence on behavior, it is very important that you emphasize and memorize all the parts and functions of the nervous system and the brain. Neuroscience is the study of the nervous system. It is a very broad category of scientific inquiry as it encompasses psychology, biology, mathematics, computer science, engineering, and many others, just to name a few fields. However, due to the recent technological innovations within the past few decades, there is a lot still being discovered about neuroscience and about the intricacies of our biochemical reactions in our brain and nervous system. There are so many unknown things about why we behave the way we do and how our brain influences our behavior. Perhaps one of you will make the next big discovery. Biological psychology, or behavioral neuroscience, is the study of how biology and genetics influence our behaviors and personalities. This is why this unit is called Biology of Behavior. At the conclusion of this unit, you will understand that everything psychological is, at its fundamental core, simultaneously biological. All of the world around us is processed and made known to us because of biochemical reactions in our brain and nervous system. How we respond to our environment and our world around us is yet again another biological response to that said environment. Obviously, we will go into more detail throughout this unit, but where did this idea of biology directing our behavior come from? Well, as we learned in Unit 1, the study of human behavior can be traced back almost over 2,000 years. But the individual who is first credited with attracting a popular following to a universal theory on how our biology influences our behavior is a German physician named Franz Gall. According to Gall's theory called Phrenology, bumps in the skull or other physiological features of the head and or face could reveal individuals' mental abilities and character traits. Phrenology focused its attention on how various regions of the brain have particular specific functions. For example, your facial features and the shape of your skull can be used to effectively predict your behavior, according to Franz Gall's theory of phrenology. For instance, using this phrenology model as our guide, if someone had a deep indentation in their skull where hope is believed to be neurologically processed, then that indentation in the skull will have adverse effects on the individual's optimistic outlook on life. In fact, according to phrenology, the indentation is attributed to the fact that the individual has a very pessimistic personality. Well, what if another individual has a natural bump on the head where hope is processed? That individual will conversely have naturally very optimistic and hopeful outlook on life. Well, what happens when someone gets a bump on their head as a result of an injury? Do you think phrenology is real? Well, have you ever heard of a man named Samuel Clemens? One time, in the mid-1800s, when phrenology was still popularly accepted in Western society, at least, this man's name, Samuel Clemens, walked into a phrenologist's office and asked to have his personality examined. After the examination, the phrenologist concluded that Samuel Clemens did not have a very outgoing personality, and that the results of the examination determined that Samuel Clemens was indeed quite bored and dull, without a very good sense of humor. Well, it turns out Samuel Clemens is the real name for one of America's most famous authors, Mark Twain, who is famous for his witty humor and outgoing personality. Mark Twain, aka Samuel Clemens, went to a different phrenologist a few days later, and that phrenologist had the exact opposite diagnosis than the original. It was on that day that Mark Twain, and later everyone else, dismissed phrenology as a credible way to explain psychology through biology. However, Franz Gall was right about one thing, in that various regions of the brain do in fact have specific responsibilities for specific mental and physical functions, as we will explore throughout the rest of this unit.